Order, honorable members. I would like to remind members that they may only vote from their allocated seats. When requested to do so, members must simply indicate their vote by pressing the appropriate button below the yes, no, or abstain signs. If a member inadvertently presses the wrong button, the member may thereafter press the correct button. The last button pressed will be recorded as the member's vote when the voting session is closed by the chair. The question before the House is that the appropriation bill be read a first time. Are all members in their allocated seats? Yes. Voting will now commence. Those in favor of the bill being read a second time, press the yes button. Yes. Those against, press the no button. No. Those wishing to abstain, press the abstain button. Have all members voted? Thank you. The voting session is now closed. The results are as follows. The authorized is 399. There's 203 for yes, 5 no, and abstain 0. The question, order members, order. The question is accordingly agreed to, and the Secretary will read the first bill the first time.
Appropriation bill.
Honorable members, order. Order, honorable members. Order. Yes, honorable member. Honorable Minister, what are you raising on?
Deputy Speaker, I think it's important to make a very significant note that this was an attempt to sabotage the national budget and an expenditure of over R1 trillion for the benefit of all South Africans.
Deputy Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Waters. Honorable members, order.
May I
you are not
you?
allowed to do that. Please. Yeah. Yes, go ahead, Honorable Member.
May I address you? Deputy Speaker, I think this also needs to be noted. This was a deliberate attempt to sabotage the R1 trillion budget by the ANC members who do not appear for work. Where are your members, Honourable Minister? Why aren't they here to vote for your legislation?
Order.
Why aren't they here to vote for your budget?
Honourable Member.
Get some discipline in your caucus.
I wish to thank parties for advising the staff on which votes they will make declarations, on which they will record their objections, and on which they intend dividing. This information will greatly assist the process this afternoon. I will put each vote and ask parties for declaration of vote as they have indicated. Members may make declaration of votes from the floor microphones if they wish. After this, I will put the vote for decision. I've been advised by the agreement declarations will be limited to 2 minutes each.
I think I didn't read the order, the sixth order.
Okay.
Something that says the Secretary will read the sixth order.
Oh yeah, you should. Honorable members, we skipped a vital step here. Let's request the Secretary to read the sixth order.
Consideration of votes and schedule. Appropriation bill.
Thank you. The remarks I just made includes that I have been advised that by agreement, declaration will be limited to 2 minutes each. The bells will be rung for 5 minutes for the first division on a vote, but for only 1 minute on subsequent divisions. I now put vote number 1, the presidency. Are there any objections?
They requested these declarations in this fashion. EFF is not here.
Okay. Okay, I will now follow the list that I've been given.
The appropriate way is that after putting the question, you must ask for declarations. Otherwise, they will just complicate it.
Yeah, no,
They are
it's
not
okay.
listening.
Yeah, okay. I now put vote number 1 for presidency and are there any objections? All right. Do you have any party that wishes to declare? Okay, the DA.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. The lack of a dedicated portfolio committee for the presidency is a singular failure on the part of this parliament to discharge its constitutional mandate to hold the president and the deputy president properly accountable as required by section 92(3) of the Constitution. It is highly irresponsible of this parliament that the president should take part in the EPS process merely for the purpose of having budget vote 1 rubber stamped by this House. To support this budget will be to accept that it is okay for nearly 9 million South Africans to be out of work and poor at Mr. Zuma's watch while he lives in luxury and at their expense. To support this budget will be to aid and abet Mr. Zuma in his failure to uphold, defend, and respect the Constitution as the supreme law of the Republic. To support this budget will be to aid and abet Mr. Zuma in his violation of his oath of office. To support this budget will be to aid and abet Mr. Zuma when he makes monumental blunders that cost this country billions of rand in lost assets because of his presidential prerogative. To support this budget will be to aid and abet Mr. Zuma in his shameless arrogance and apparent contempt of the country's constitutional court and its justices. To support this budget will be grossly irresponsible on the part of the members of this House. The DA cannot support this budget vote 1.
Any other party wishing to make a declaration? Is there any party wishing to make a declaration? Okay. Honourable Member, Honourable Chief Whip.
Deputy Speaker, the ANC fully supports Budget Vote 1 because indeed in supporting this vote will be supporting the peace and stability that has been established through the advent of democracy in our country. But secondly, we will also be supporting the pro-poor policies that have been implemented by our government. Look at electricity, look at water provisioning, look at the grants for the poor, look at the many schools that are no-fee schools. But look at the number of students at tertiary institutions who would not have been there if this government was not in power. We fully support this budget.
Honourable members, the declarations having been put across, we now put the question. Are there any objections to the appropriation bill? The first order being agreed to? Vote 1. There's an objection. Okay, the objection will be noted.
Deputy Speaker,
Yes, Honourable Member.
the DA calls for division. Thank you.
A division having been called, the bells, as we said, will be rung for 5 minutes, and subsequently all other votes, it will be for 2 minutes.
tertiary institutions who would not have been there if this government was not in power.
Yeah. Honorable members, I would like to remind you that you may only vote from your allocated seat. When requested to do so, members must simply indicate their vote by pressing the appropriate button below the yes, no, or abstain signs. If a member inadvertently presses the wrong button, the member may thereafter press the correct button. The last button pressed will be recorded as the members vote when the voting session is closed by the chair. The question before the House is that vote number 1 be agreed to. Are all members in the allocated seats? Yes. Voting will now commence. Those in favor of the vote being agreed to, press the yes button. Those against should press the no button. Those wishing to abstain should press the abstain button. Have all members voted? Voting is closed, obviously. Two abstentions, 64 noes and 212 yes. The vote is therefore agreed to. I now put vote number 2, Parliament. Are there any objections? There being objections, I now put the question. Those
Deputy Speaker.
Those in favor
Deputy Speaker.
of the vote being agreed to, say yes.
Deputy Speaker, sorry.
Just wait, I'm going through a process here, sir, please.
You can't do that. That's out of order. You must wait for the presiding officer to lead you in the first place. Just, what's wrong with you? Go and cool a little bit somewhere else. You need it badly, it seems.
Declaration of vote having been requested, we now call upon the first, who has indicated, Honorable Steenhuisen.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Minister Godon, through the chair, let me be very clear. We will do our best to sabotage a budget. We don't support it. We put forward amendments, and you have not heeded those amendments. We will never support a budget with a 4 billion rand jet for President Zuma. We won't do it. But let me be very clear as well. We're not the ones trying to sabotage this House. Your members can't get here. We're not the ones trying to sabotage you, Minister. It's your own party that is trying to sabotage you by having you arrested. That's got nothing to do with the Democratic Alliance. That's your own members.
Point of order. Honorable Steenhuisen, please take your seat.
Point of order,
Honorable
Chair.
Steenhuisen, please take your seat. Yes, Honorable Member.
Yes, Chairperson, we are dealing with vote 2. So the member is really out of order. He's not addressing the issues of vote 2.
Take your seat, Honorable. Proceed, Honorable Member.
I think when a finance minister is sabotaged by his own party, like the way the Minister Godon is, it has everything to do with the budget. But let me say, this parliament is down, but it is not out. 2 decades of a sustained initiative by the ANC to pull the teeth of this watchdog have taken their tolls. The Nkandla debacle is merely symptomatic of a deeper structural problem with this parliament. The ANC have sought to actively weaken this House and suffocate its ability to hold the President and his ministers accountable. This is not the Parliament that the framers of this Constitution envisage. They dreamt of a robust and energetic multi-party chamber. Let's start by being honest about these shortcomings in this House, and let's deal with the failures and the recent court judgments. Let's marry these together with the myriads of reports tabled in this House over the past 10 years, and let's start to understand what real accountability and what real oversight of the executive means. We, as parliamentarians, need to hold this House accountable. We should have a dedicated committee to exercise over it that meets regularly. This will ensure proper oversight. At the moment, this doesn't exist. We therefore oppose this budget.
Next member, Honourable Member.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, the blood feud that I referred to it last week between the real ANC Youth League, currently dressed in red, and the ANC under the leadership of the Honourable President still continues. And because of that, the image of Parliament still is in tatters. If we don't think what that the public rejects what is happening in this House after what we saw yesterday. Now, the question simply is, why is this happening? Why is this kind of thing happening in our Parliament? This Parliament, under the leadership of the ANC, with the ANC's majority, took certain decisions during the last session last year, which caused the Constitutional Court to come out and say the decisions taken by this Parliament with this ANC majority were unlawful. It's the first time since 1994 that decisions taken by Parliament were found by the Constitutional Court to be unlawful. And why were they unlawful? Because the ANC majority were misused to protect the President in the Nkandla saga. Now, the question is very simple. Who is going to accept the responsibility on behalf of Parliament to try and rectify this wrongdoing by the ANC majority? Is it going to be the Honourable Speaker? Is she going to accept responsibility? Is it going to be the Deputy Speaker? Who advised the ANC to take those unlawful decisions? The members of the ad hoc committee, are they going to take responsibility? Unfortunately, Leader of Government Business, somebody has to take responsibility in terms of those decisions that were taken. In the meantime, it allows the EFF to run rampant in this Parliament in terms of the things that has happened here. We cannot support Parliament. If you think at the moment that we can continue as if nothing has happened, you are making a huge mistake. Somebody please stand up and accept and take responsibility for those wrong decisions. You acted unlawfully, and Parliament is the one that is losing out. We will not support this.
Honourable Member.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. The National Freedom Party believes that the time has come to restore the credibility of this highest legislative institution in our beautiful country. It cannot be postponed. The recent conduct of the House is having a negative impact on our people and is doing the image of our country harm in the eyes of the world, causing investor confidence to be shaken. Our conduct is taking away our time for making law, as is our function as legislators, and deprives us of time for much-needed robust debates. This House should be a haven for free speech and a spare for dialectical discourse, and should be tempered within a modicum and level of ethics, courtesy, and professionalism. Honourable Chairperson, one of the challenges that we have in terms of the budget on Parliament is the abuse of parliamentary funds in respect of constituency officers, the abuse of parliamentary funds in terms of travel, and we urge Parliament to take the necessary steps to ensure that taxpayers' monies that are used in constituency offices, that those offices do exist, that it has their, it serves the purpose of between a member of Parliament and the constituency, that furniture that has been bought is there and does exist, that from time to time we need to pay oversight visits to ensure that we protect the taxpayers' money. So in conclusion, the National Freedom Party, with this submission, will support this. Thank you.
You can remember the ANC, Deputy Chief Whip.
Angibingelele Sekela Sihlalo ngibingelele nebalingani bami kulendlu. Angikubeke kucace ukuthi 203 members laba votile kule budget malunga eANC. iDA ikhetha ukuthi ihlale ngaphandle ngoba bangafuni ukuthi uhulumende achubeke nokwenda umsebenzi wayo. Kepha bayafuna ukuthi bantu bakithi labahluphekile babavotele. Kwangathi ngabe bayabona labo bantu labalayishwa ngemalori ukuthi bahambe bayocampaigna kube labanye bahlete etindlini bashaywa ama-aircon ukuthi le DA ayibakhathaleli. Angisho ukuthi kubalekile ukuthi sisupporte ibudget yeparlamente ngoba ngaphandle kweliparlamente government angeka khona kusebenza. La kule parliamente siphasisa imithetho, la kule parliamente senda imithetho, la kule parliamente siphasisa ama budget wema departments lefaka wonke ama departments la khona kule live la South Africa. La bantu bakithi khona bathola tinsita nalabo labahluphekile. Akunandzaba nalabo benda ngabomu ngoba bayathi bona ukuthi badlala izambani la pondo. Abanandzaba nebantu. So for thina ukuthi sibe na hulumende kufanele siphasise ibudget. So ningazami ukuthi niltene ema division wenu kuhlukanisa amalunga eANC. Minister of Finance uyasupportwa la ibudget siyayisupporta sonke njengoba sendile. Uright ukwenda le statement lo sendile ngoba laba abathi ukuthi bateleni. Siyayisupporta ibudget yeParliament and eParliament inkandla akusiyo into leyodwa lebesidila ngayo. And I-High Court judgment, I-Constitutional Court, ithe i-process yeParliament ibe right lendekile. Ningafiki lani bese niya grandstanda ni twista yonke into kwangathi ngini kuphela lenathi kufunza into on TVCs. Ngiyabonga.
Honorable members, I put the vote again. Are there any objections? No objections having been indicated. Those in favor will say aye. Those against, no. I think the ayes have it.
Deputy Speaker.
Yes, ma'am.
The DA calls for division. Thank you.
The division having been called, the bells will be rung for 2 minutes.
I think subsequently you said
No, I didn't say. No, no. It says 2 minutes. Check. Members would like to remind members that they may only vote from their allocated seats. When requested to do so, members must simply indicate their vote by pressing the appropriate button below the yes, no, or abstain signs. If a member inadvertently presses the wrong button, the member may thereafter press the correct button. The last button pressed will be recorded as the member's vote when the voting session is closed by the chair. The question before the House is that vote number 2 be approved. Are all members in their seats? Voting will now commence. Those in favor of the bill being read, those in favor of the vote being read a second time should press the yes button. Those against, the no button. Those wishing to abstain should press the abstain button. Have all members voted? The voting session is closed. No abstentions, 71 noes, 207 yes votes. The vote is therefore agreed to. I now put vote number 3, communications. Are there any objections? Okay. There have been declarations. Who would like to? Yes, Honourable Member Van Dam, proceed.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. The DA does not support this budget. We firstly...
Honourable members, please allow the member to speak.
Are you going to protect me, Chair, or are they going to continue howling?
Proceed, Honourable Member, please.
Honourable Chairperson.
Honourable members, you can't be screaming at members.
The DA does not support this budget. We firstly do not believe that this department should exist. There should be one Department of Communications and one Department of Telecommunications. It is clear that the only reason this department exists is to be the ANC's propaganda wing. And boy, has Minister Motambi over the last year done well to deliver on her promise to turn the Department of Communications into the Department of Propaganda. Over the last year, Minister Motambi has tabled policies and legislation that will give the ANC government total control over South Africa's broadcasting, print and online media. Rest assured, members, that the DA will do everything in its powers to oppose this legislation. We will lobby civil society and we will lobby the public to oppose any legislation that infringes on South Africa's hard-won rights to freedom of expression, the hard-won right of the independence of the media, and the hard-won right of South Africans to receive and impart information. Not only is this department the Department of Propaganda, it is also a department used to prop up Gupta business. In a reply to a parliamentary question, it was revealed that the Department of Communications has spent over 1 million on news subscriptions of the New Age, a newspaper that nobody reads, and it's absolutely useless for governments to be buying subscriptions of the New Age. It is clear that this department is the Department of Propaganda. It is a department used to prop up Gupta business, and the DA cannot and will not support it.
Honourable Merva.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. In a blistering attack on the media and media freedom, Minister Faith Mutambi, the Minister of State Propaganda, recently declared in her budget vote, and I quote, "To sell their publications, media houses paint this government as corrupt, inept and helpless." This is simply not true. There is just no basis to continue blaming the media for our government's own shortcomings. The minister's comments were not only a direct attack on our democracy, but they must be condemned. Chairperson, while our nation is now rightfully outraged with allegations of state capture by the Gupta family, it must be noted that the cosy relationship between government and the Guptas was aided and abetted by the former Minister of Communications, Ms. Dina Pule, when the Minister and the GCIS entered into bulk buying advertising deals with the Guptas. We were therefore not surprised when the former GCIS head, Themba Maseko, recently revealed that he was ordered to divert government advertising to the New Age newspaper. While our economy now limps along, our government continues to spend millions of our taxpayer money to keep the Gupta media empire alive, and it must be condemned. At the same time, the Broadcasting Amendment Bill, which this budget will fund, will further erode the credibility and the independence of our public broadcaster. The new online policy of the Films and Publication Board is also a cause for concern, with many arguing that it will lead to the government's censorship of online content. Both pieces of legislation is a step in the wrong direction. All of these require urgent attention, Deputy Speaker, although many questions about the effectiveness and the credibility of this department will remain. And for as long as this department remains the propaganda tool of this government, the IFP will not support this budget vote. I thank you.
Honourable Imam.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Let me start off by saying the National Freedom Party supports this budget. Honourable Chairperson, I don't know when the colleague from the DA talks about propaganda what she's talking about, because the very same DA-run Cape Town Metro discontinued the Cape Times because they did not want to produce any drugs. So I cannot understand what they're talking about. In fact, Honorable Chairperson, in fact, what you hear or see in the media is a lot of negative publicity. What we don't see is all the successes and good things that happen in South Africa. And I think it is time, Honorable Chairperson, that there must be a balance in media reporting. Because otherwise we are sending out a message. And I get calls. I got a call the other day from what is happening in your country? I said, now don't worry. This is the media house. This is where the movie house. This is where you don't pay for movies, so people come here to grandstand. That is what it is all about. So, Honorable Chairperson, this is what you call the highest level of hypocrisy. You are saying propaganda, but you yourself are now going out there and preventing and refusing to buy the Cape Times because they will not pay to you. This is basically what it is about. However, the National Freedom Party believes that the department is doing a good job. We will support this budget. We call on you and we support your initiative in addressing the challenge in terms of the youth unemployment. So I think we are quite satisfied with that. But again, we want to reiterate that point. There must be a balance on reporting in the country so that people are aware that there's success and there's challenges. And I think that is very important. We support this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honourable Member, ANC.
Order.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. The ANC support this budget vote because the majority of the entities, including the department itself, got clean orders during the past financial year. We congratulate the SABC on the 90% airtime spent on local content of the music industry to advance South African artists. It happened for the first time in the history of South Africa. We welcome also the delinking of South African SABC TV licenses from registration of the set-top boxes for indigenous families within South Africa. We appreciate the efforts of ICASA to open offices in all provinces, and this is just some of the initiatives of the ANC-led government to improve the lives of ordinary South Africans. Minister Mutambi, we have all the faith in you in taking this department forward, and we therefore don't have any other choice than urge all South Africans to vote for the ANC on the 3rd of August because they indeed better the lives of South Africans.
Honourable members, I put the vote again. Are there any objections? The question is, those in favour will say aye, and those against no. I think the ayes have it.
Deputy Speaker,
yes,
will you please note the objection of the DA? Thank you.
The objections of the DA will be noted.
Deputy Speaker.
And the vote is agreed
Deputy
to.
Speaker, can you please also note the objection of the Inkatha Freedom Party?
Yeah, it will be noted.
As well as the FF Plus. Thank you.
FF Plus, those will be noted. The vote is therefore agreed to. I now put vote number 4, cooperative governance and traditional affairs. Are there any objections? There being objections, let's hear the declarations. Who has any? Go ahead, Honourable Member.
Deputy Speaker, I see that neither the Minister nor Deputy Minister are here for their budget votes. Quite interesting. It's no secret that a large number of municipalities in South Africa are dysfunctional. The ANC's own government reports confirm this. And yet, this budget that we are asked to approve today significantly decreases the funding available to the local government support and intervention program. Although perhaps that isn't a bad thing, especially when one considers that the interventions this department has made at national and provincial level have very rarely resulted in improvement in service delivery or functionality at the affected municipalities. One only has to think of the more than 3 million rand that was paid to Pam Yarko during her 9-month stint as administrator in Makana that did not achieve the objectives of the intervention and had to be renewed with a new administrator. The equitable share allocation in this budget has not kept pace with inflation and is a far cry from the increase given to Eskom. This will place further pressure on municipalities who are already struggling to pay the utility bills. This grant is intended, among other things, to provide free basic services to indigent consumers. And the current allocation will do little to help the plight of the indigent and the 8.9 million unemployed South Africans. In the 2016 budget vote, Selga was identified by former COGTA Minister Pravin Gordhan as an area where cost-cutting would be achieved. In a startling turnabout, in this budget, they get a 90 million rand increase. Now, if the minister was here, I'd ask him whether that was state capture at a local level, whether that was a result of his one-day trip to Dubai, and whether he returned with a suitcase full of cash from the Guptas. Frankly, Chairperson, this budget does not address the challenges faced by municipalities, the problems the department itself has identified, and the many that it hasn't, or the many interventions that are required to resolve this dysfunctionality. The DA cannot support this budget.
Honourable Speaker, our rules clearly indicates that you cannot cast aspersion on a member of parliament. Therefore, by saying that he might have carried a bag full of money from the Guptas, thus casting aspersion on Honourable Member Van Rooyen. We request that he must withdraw.
Honourable Member, you know that is not appropriate, that you shouldn't say that. Yes, Honourable Member.
Deputy Speaker.
Honourable Waters,
From what I heard, the Honourable Member say there was no aspersions being cast on the Honourable Minister, and I would urge you to look at the Hansard, please, before making a ruling. Thank you.
Honourable Member, I hear the Honourable Member. I heard him. I heard him. Yes, he made it. Honourable Member, withdraw that.
Sorry, Speaker, Deputy Speaker. What's the problem?
Withdraw what you said.
Speaker, I'm not going to withdraw.
Oh, you are not going to withdraw?
No, I'm not withdrawing it.
Honourable Member, if you do not withdraw making such an allegation, when you do not put evidence before House, that constitutes casting aspersions on the Minister. So if you are not, then leave the House, Honourable Member. You leave us no option. You leave us no option.
Deputy Minister, Speaker. Deputy Speaker.
Honourable Member, I've made a ruling.
No.
Please.
He's going.
Yes, Honourable Member.
He's going. But I just want to place on record, the Honourable Member did not cast aspersions.
Sorry, you want me to...
The Honourable Member is leaving, but I would like to put on record the Honourable Member did not cast aspersions on the Honourable Minister's integrity.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Honourable Members.
Don't do that.
Honourable Member, Honourable Groenewald.
Agbare young speaker, dit lyk vir my die stoel is nou al so geoefen om mense uit te stuur. Ek hoop nie u stuur my uit voor ek gepraat het nie. 80% en meer munisipaliteite in Suid-Afrika word beheer deur die ANC. So u regeer in daardie plaaslike regerings. Maar agbare minister, as ons gaan kyk na die insameling van agterstallige dienstegelde, dan sien ons dit word eenvoudig nie gedoen nie. Sodanig dat die betalers van dienstegelde nou nie betalers moet subsidieer. En dan kry ons die situasie waar daar sommige munisipaliteite is waar Eskom na vore tree en die krag afsit omdat die rekenings nie betaal word nie. U het u begroting, agbare minister. Nou wil die Vryheidsfront Plus vir u sê, u kan nie geld oorbetaal aan 'n plaaslike regering as hulle bedryfskostes nie behoorlik kan bestuur om die rekening te betaal nie. Want die mense betaal vir die krag, maar dan word dit afgesit. En alvorens u enige gelde aan die munisipaliteit oorbetaal, moet u doodseker maak dat Eskom se rekening vereffen is, want dis onbillik dat betalersverdienste se krag afgesny word weens wanadministrasie. In die Noordwes-provinsie is al die munisipaliteite wangeadministreer. Daar was 'n ondersoek na almal van hulle. Ons wag nou nog vir sommige verslae vanaf die spesiale ondersoekeenheid. Agbare minister, hoe kan u verwag dat 'n politieke party u begroting moet ondersteun as daar totale chaos is, as die amptenare onbevoeg is, dat korrupsie eenvoudig net seevier en u sit hierso met 'n vroom gesig asof niks fout is nie. Die Vryheidsfront Plus sal nie hierdie begrotingspos ondersteun nie.
Honorable Imam.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. The National Freedom Party supports this budget vote. Honourable Chairperson, to execute its mandate, the department has a budget of 72.9 billion. This amount has been earmarked to improve corporate governance. Honourable Chairperson, one of the fundamental principles of corporate governance should be to ensure that we are accountable as office bearers. Now, when you have a situation like you had in Khayelitsha, where people were using toilets that had no doors for a long period of time, and even though you've had a councillor in the area who did not see that and do anything about it, it makes you wonder whether there is accountability. And for that reason, the National Freedom Party says that more emphasis needs to be put in place to ensure there's greater accountability by public representatives who are paid by the taxpayers to ensure that they are delivering to the people of this country. Now, my colleagues keep continuously complaining on the side, and you hear the who's and ahs and he's. But there's an ideal example of the clinics in the Cape Metro who's the worst in the entire country. But they will choose to do nothing about it. Why? Because it's not in Constantia, because it's not in Berkeley, it's not in Bishopgate. That is what it is all about. So in conclusion, the National Freedom Party calls on the department to place greater emphasis ensuring accountability by public servants, and in view of that, the National Freedom Party supports this budget, I think.
Honourable Member from the ANC.
Chairperson, the ANC support this budget vote. Deputy Speaker, the ANC support this budget vote because this budget vote of 72.9 billion rand is mainly focused. It has not just came, it has come through with a program that is called Back to Basics, which I think now is a well-known and accepted program within the department and the government. This program, Chair, to take it forward, we are going to use this money, is going to be used through the 10-point plan. And this 10-point plan is how the money is going to be spent as it was spent correctly. The committee has accepted the program and its implementation, especially the issues to be addressed during the second phase. We are now in the second phase of this back to basics, which is working very well. We will play our oversight role on it and on the 10-point plan, and to ensure that we assist the department to implement the second phase of the Back to Basics program. We should therefore support this department in the implementation of this program, Chair, so that to measurable improvement in the citizen experience of the local government that can be achieved. We therefore will support this budget.
Honourable members, declarations having been done, I now put the vote again. Are there any objections? Objections being indicated. Let's put the question. Those in favour will say aye. Those against, no. I think the ayes have it.
Deputy Speaker, the DA calls for division. Thank you.
Division having been called, we'll call, the bells will be rung for 2 minutes. I would like to remind members that they may only vote from their allocated seats. When requested to do so, members must simply indicate their vote by pressing the appropriate button below the yes, no, or abstain signs. If a member inadvertently presses the wrong button, the member may thereafter press the correct button. The last button pressed will be recorded as the member's vote when the voting session is closed by the chair. The question before the House is that vote number 4 be agreed to. Are all members in the allocated seats? Voting will now commence. Those in favor of the vote being agreed to should press the yes button. Those against, press the no button. Those wishing to abstain should press the abstain button. Have all members voted? The voting is closed. Zero abstentions, 66 noes, 204 yes. The vote is therefore agreed to. I now put vote number 5, Home Affairs. Are there any objections? A declaration having been requested earlier as indicated. Honourable Member, proceed.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. As we always do, the DA recognizes that the department has made significant progress over the years in a number of areas, and the service level in Home Affairs is getting better over time. But we also cannot discount the serious problem that still exists in the department that require urgent intervention. Although the changes to the immigration regulation has had a positive spin-off after much protest from the tourism sector, it is still struggling to recover from the damage, and more work needs to be done to make our immigration rules more tourism-friendly. It still takes far too long for permits to be approved, especially permanent residents, permits which often take years to be resolved. The rollout of the Smart ID is also plagued with long queues, and the entire process remains very frustrating for applicants. Although There has been an increase in the allocation of immigration service this year. The allocation amount is still insufficient to deal with the millions of illegal immigration who are living in South Africa. The cancellation of the citizenship of dual citizen without prior warning is yet another contributing factor to the departments. Conduct human rights violation and his must be addressed with urgency. For these reasons, the DA will not support the budget. I thank you.
NFP.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. That is why I call this the movie house. Honorable Chairperson, the National Freedom Party supports the vote on Home Affairs. Honorable Minister, I think of Home Affairs, he is present. I think I did see him. Let me talk about a good story again. I had the opportunity the other day of one of the members from the SADC region that was present at a conference in Johannesburg and had unfortunately lost the unabridged birth certificates of a little baby. But I just made one telephone call to the immigration office at Johannesburg International. And I promise you, just that one phone call ensured the safe passage without any delay for this person that come from Namibia. So I think it's actually a good story to sell. And I want to emphasize, and I did explain this to some of them, that the minister did not say that if you did not have an unabridged birth certificate, you can't travel. What he said was that the immigration officials at the different port of entries must use their discretion. If there is suspicion, then you must stop. So, and I think when I spoke to the immigration officer at the Johannesburg International, they very well understood that, and there was absolutely no problem. With regards to the Amgeni Road, I once again want to say and reiterate, Minister, the staff are very accommodating at the Amgeni Road branch. One of the challenges they experience is the very long queues, and that is as a result of people from different areas coming to that particular branch when they can use the facilities in their own branch. So maybe we need to encourage them, maybe not restrict them, but encourage them to use the facilities in their particular branch. Thank you very much. We support this. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Chairperson of the...
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. There are really many good stories to tell. The registrations of children at hospitals, it does happen. The smart ID cards, they does happen. And the use of banks to actually increase access for applications of passport and smart ID cards also really improve the services. Deputy Speaker, we support Vote 5 as it allows us to guarantee the security of our country, our citizenship, as well as the National Population Register. It allows this country to be a global player in the arena of the economy, peace, and development. Deputy Speaker, I want to indicate that in the committee, we generally agree and support the budget, except the DA's obsession with the Guptas. I think that is the problem that they are having. Every day they talk about the Guptas. Honorable members, the department has increased access to civic documents. It supports the IEC in its quest to hold local government elections this year. It also supports the government printing works as the preferred government printer. And also the department has embarked on modernization of its systems. We must agree that the department has turned around and it is contributing in the global tourism. Our passports, identity documents are on par in terms of security across the world. We need to make the call that parents register their children within 30 days to assist in securing the National Population Register as the only entry into that register. South Africans have to be safe and do feel safe. The Department of Home Affairs is key in ensuring this security and safety.
Your time has
The
expired,
ANC
sir.
support this vote. Come one, come all. Join the ANC march. Sishota ngao.
I now put the question. Those in favor will say aye. Those against, no. I think the ayes have it.
Deputy Speaker, the DA calls for division. Thank you.
A division having been called, we'll call, the bells will be rung for 1 minute. Your clocks are not wait. Close those doors. The time is over. I'd like to remind members that they may only vote from their allocated seats. When requested to do so, members must simply indicate their vote by pressing the appropriate button below the yes, no, or abstain signs. If a member inadvertently presses the wrong button, the member may thereafter press the correct button. The last button pressed will be recorded as a member's vote when the voting session is closed by the chair. The question before the House is that vote number 5 be agreed to. Are all members in the allocated seats? Okay. Voting will now commence. Those in favor of the vote being agreed to should press the yes button. Those against, press the no button. Those wishing to abstain should press the abstain button. Have all members voted? The voting is now closed. The yes are 203, the noes 66, and there's no abstentions. The vote is therefore agreed to. I now put vote number 6, international relations and cooperation. Are there any objections? Let's hear the declarations. Honorable Kalen.
Deputy Speaker.
Order, honorable members, order.
DIRCO is very proud of its 125 missions abroad at a very high cost to the South African taxpayer. Given yesterday's debacle in Parliament, I wonder how our missions are explaining this to the world at large. It must be quite embarrassing this morning. These missions are costly for the fiscus, especially under the current economic climate. Programs 2, 3, and 5 of the department costs well over 4 billion, and this is from a total of 5.8 billion budget. In an effort to shore up its role of big brother on the continent, South Africa has undertaken too many foreign payments, which the taxpayer is bankrolling. Example, the 2 billion rand for the BRICS Bank, which could balloon to 24 billion over the next 6 years. Through you, Deputy Speaker, I ask the Minister, given that there are 8.9 million job losses, that the Minister of Finance has called for austerity measures, that one of the NDP aspirations calls upon DIRCO to conduct an audit of foreign representation in terms of whether the country should maintain its current global footprint. When is the Minister going to catch a wake-up and commence with the review and rationalization of South Africa's missions abroad? The DA cannot, in all honesty, support DIRCO's budget.
Honorable Imam.
Honorable Chairperson, the National Freedom Party supports this. Honorable Chairperson, let me start off by saying that, and I'll specifically talk on the issue of the SADC region, because a member representing in the SADC region. There are lots and lots of interventions, especially in the SADC region. The infrastructure development that we are about to embark on, the process of fighting tuberculosis, diabetes, and HIV in the region, the issue of skills sharing in the region and keeping the skills in the region, then allowing them to be taken away by imperialists throughout the world. So I think, allocating a budget, maintaining your international relationship with the outside world is very, very important. I like it when we talk about job losses, but in my view, I think the issue of AGOA is also going to cause job losses because we were forced to actually bring in poultry from the United States, thanks to the Democratic Alliance. So as a result thereof, so we have that. So let's, here in our relationship with the SADC region, I can tell you that we will be creating lots and lots of jobs. We will be able, there will be economic development in the area. I'll give an example of the shortage that we have ahead of the GPs, which the NHI could not kick off, which the DA don't want to kick off. The Mauritian government, part of the SADC, has offered 400 GPs. So there is a lot of work being done, a lot of good things coming out of our relationship. So we must support it anywhere where it is going to be in the interest of South Africa or our country as a whole, and our people, we must encourage it. So the National Freedom Party will support this budget. Thank you.
Honorable Mnango. Wait, Honorable. Near coalition. Hold on, Honorable.
Well, thank you, Mr. Deputy
I had
Speaker.
to protect you. You were about to be hit by a train there.
Thank you for protecting me as well.
All right.
Thank you. The IFP believes that it is imperative that stringent cost-cutting measures be implemented by this department in line with the overall fiscal belt-tightening that is taking place across all other departments. IFP believes that a reduction in the number of missions, which stands at 125 currently, must be looked at. The cost involved in maintaining trade missions with little or no benefit at all to the country is just undesirable. Symbolic missions are cost prohibitive. So such as well as the phenomenal growth in the terrorism scourge in Africa is also a cause for great concern to us. If not checked, it will undermine every effort at economic regional integration, which is underpinned by the AU infrastructure development initiatives. The IFP nevertheless supports this.
Honorable Chairperson.
Ngiyathokoza mphathi Nrambo. Ihlangano yesitshaba esekelwa nguZimu nabezimu iANC iyasekela isabelo semali somnyango wazangaphandle. Angithome ngokuthi ichebiswano phakathi kweSouth Africa namazwe angaphandle likhule kusuka endaweni ezingathoma ku-37 ukuya ku-126 lokho kwenza ukuthi South Africa iberekisane kuhle khulu namazwe angaphandle. Kwesibili ukuthi South Africa ihwebo phakathi kweSouth Africa nezwekazi leAfrika ihwebo lusuke ku-11 billion before 1994 njenganje lijame ku-385 billion i-ANC yasekela. Kwesithathu i-Forum for China and Africa njengoba beyibanjwe lapho umnyaka opheleleko kufakwe imali eningi endlula ku-92 billion rand ezokwenza amathuba womberego nokuceda ichigo. Ngokugcina ibhanka le ekuthiwa i-New Development Bank abanye bathi i-BRICS Bank nayo seyithomile ukufaka imali eSouth Africa neAfrika lapho abantu bazakhona ukuthola umberego nakwakhiwa amabhlorho nendlela namatelefoni nazo zonke into lezi bathi phecelezi ngesikhuwa i-infrastructure. Ngiyathokoza ihlangano bezimi yasekela.
I now put the question again. Those in favor will say aye. Those against, no. I think the ayes have it.
Deputy Speaker, please note the objection of the DA. Thank you.
Noting the objections of the DA. Okay.
Agbare Young Speaker, die beswaar van die Vryheidsfront Plus ook asseblief.
Okay. Those objections will be noted. Honourable members, we now put vote number 7, Treasury. Are there any objections? Okay, declarations having been called for, let's do that. Go ahead, Honourable Member.
Deputy Speaker, the great economist John Maynard Keynes viewed national treasuries, and I quote, as a bulwark against overwhelming wickedness. The problem, of course, is that it is true. National Treasury does stand against wickedness and does stand between good and evil in our country. Now, we are at a tipping point. Economic growth is collapsing to 0.6%. 8.9 million people do not have jobs or have given up looking for jobs, and we are hurtling towards a ratings downgrade in South Africa. But of course, despite this, the minister was a victim of a political hit on the weekend, with newspaper headlines screaming, "Pravin, arrest, shock," which of course triggered an extraordinary statement from the minister, which read, and I quote, "All South Africans need to protect the National Treasury staff who have diligently, honestly, and skillfully served the national interest to the best of their ability." And so we must ask, who do the National Treasury staff require protection from? And of course the answer is clear. President Jacob Zuma and his proxy forces, including the sugar daddies in Dubai, the peddlers of Project Spiderweb, and the wreckers in cabinet who support him. And so we choose to stand against wickedness and support the National Treasury vote in 2016-17. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Honourable Deputy Speaker. Let me start off by commending the Minister and his team, the entire Treasury, for a job well done. Minister, Honourable Deputy Speaker and Minister present, with regards to the challenges that municipalities are facing in terms of the municipal public accounts committees, the National Freedom Party believes that more power must be given to the Municipal Public Accounts Committee because to a very large extent they appear to be undermined by municipal managers and mayors and things. So I think we need to do that. The other thing is that we found is that irregular expenditure, there seems to be lots and lots of loopholes in irregular expenditure where you spend the money and then come out and regularize it, even though it may not have been entirely necessary, or it could have waited for the next budget and things. So I think those are some of the issues we believe that we must address, give more power to them. With regards to the issue and the challenge we have with the non-payment by government departments and where Treasury is intervening and ensuring that they're paying directly. We must try and ensure that the recurrence of this must not go on and on. We must put a stop to it, ensure that people are accountable, make sure that the policies that we have in place must be implemented at all given time, because they come with these strategic plans and quite often they know that it is not realistic, they're not going to be able to achieve them. So I think Treasury needs to take that into consideration. However, the National Freedom Party believes that we will support this budget. Thank you very much.
Honorable Filtane.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The reason UDM thought it necessary that I come over here is to register our concern to the Treasury over the fact that when a department underspends by as much as 60 million, to Treasury, that means nothing. But if you were to measure the amount of development that you can do with 60 million, socio-economic impact of 60 million, then you would understand that Treasury needs to move from that way of thinking. This declaration was made by a chief director when we're dealing with land reform, which had an expenditure close on that figure. So we want to say as UDM, do not undermine under expenditure. Get serious with the way in which you handle the finances of the state. The other point in closing that I would like to raise is that we do support Treasury because we do realize the fact that it needs to have the cash to disperse to the various departments. But lastly, we want to say as the UTM, it's still a matter of concern that all government departments seem to concern and confine themselves to reporting that we've spent so many billions and that's the end. Socio-economic impact is the reason why there is government. Please add that. They will listen when you speak as Treasury. They don't listen when we encourage them to do that. I thank you.
Honorable Karim, Chairperson.
Deputy Speaker, comrades and friends, Mr. David Doom and Gloom Mania says everything that's predictable. Now, of course, he says the country is hurtling forward to a downgrade. He said that some 6-8 weeks ago, and he was proven wrong. There's no reason why he again won't be proven wrong. There's nothing inevitable about a downgrade. If we all work together as a country in our national interest, whatever our differences, which is what the minister appealed for in his budget speech, we can avoid that downgrade. Because you see, ultimately, who will suffer if there's a downgrade? It's not just all of us here, but primarily the poor and the disadvantaged. For the DA, it doesn't matter because that's not its constituency. In fact, it's the poor and the disadvantaged that will suffer disproportionately far more than us. So it's in our national interest. Many other countries facing similar problems, despite the very big differences between political parties, has drawn together. Why don't we expect the spirit of what the minister said in his speech of working together, being resilient, working together, as we've done in the best of times. Also to say, at our meeting yesterday, Minister, we observed once again, as we did now report on your budget, that the strat plan and annual report, strat plan and APP of the South African Revenue Service has not yet been presented. You have, of course, asked for an extension to the Speaker of the Parliament till end of July. The committee has welcomed it, but it says that actually we cannot afford the divisions we currently have, not in the context we currently face. So we've appealed for the President, the Deputy President as the leader of government business, the Minister and the Commissioner Tom Moyane to sort these issues out. When you come back to us in August as Parliament, we have no choice but to get tougher on this, Deputy President. It has to be sorted out. Whatever the differences are, we're not taking a position on that. What we do know is the differences have to be substantially reduced, if not eliminated, which will increase our case to call for civil society to work closer with us. Thank you.
Expired. Honorable members, I now put the question. Those in favor will say aye. And those against, no. The ayes have it. The budget vote is therefore agreed to. We now put vote number 8, planning, monitoring and evaluation. Are there any objections? Objections having been indicated, and requests for declaration made. Honorable Mutau.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Just a little remark here. Working together does not mean that the DA should be the lapdogs of the ANC. The DA has warned previously that empire building in the DPME that would only serve to deepen the ANC's crony network of cadre deployment. As matters stand, the numbers of permanent posts in the department is set to increase from 372 in the 2015-16 financial year to 490 in the medium term. Consequently, the budget for compensation of employees is expected to grow at an average annual rate of 18.4%, accounting for 30.9% of the department's budget over the medium term. This is truly breathtaking at a time when the Minister of Finance has appealed for serious cost cutting across all national departments. This country is in dire economic straits. Nearly 9 million jobless South Africans demand this of all of us in this parliament to trim this bloated government. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the DA holds that the single hybrid portfolio committee for the DPME and the DPSA cannot do effective oversight over the two departments. Indeed, as I have pleaded before, if the two departments are important enough to each have a minister, a deputy minister, and loads of programs, then each of these departments must be important enough to have a dedicated portfolio committee. I know the minister is listening here. These are the issues that make it very, very difficult for us as a DA to support the budget of a ministry which actually quite works much better than others. For those reasons, we cannot support the budget for vote number 8.
Honourable Member, ANC.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, comrades, honourable members of this House, monitoring and valuation is very important to this government, and therefore the African National Congress wholeheartedly support this budget. By supporting this budget, we are actually saying that the youth out there, that we are supporting youth development, we are supporting the empowerment of youth, we are supporting job creation, and we are supporting government to actually evaluate and monitor departments when it comes to service delivery. Just allow me, Honourable Deputy Speaker, just to say that the Democratic Alliance, actually, they are very, very naughty this afternoon. And we actually need a more serious opposition in this House. Not this kind of lapdog. We don't need this kind of lapdog. We need a more serious opposition. The Democratic Alliance only come. The Democratic Alliance are wasting taxpayers' money. They're only coming here for self-pleasure and self-indulgence to this House here. And therefore, the African National Congress support this budget. Thank you very much.
Declarations done. We now put the question again. Those in favor will say aye. And those against, no. I think the ayes have it.
Deputy Speaker, please note the objection of the DA. Thank you.
We'll note the objections of the DA. Okay. Budget vote 8 is agreed to, noting the objections as indicated. And now put vote number 9, public enterprises. Are there any objections? Okay, declarations having been requested. Let's allow them. Go ahead, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. There is mounting evidence to suggest that a number of state-owned entities have been captured by the Gupta family, allegedly influencing not only ministerial appointments, but also the appointments of the SOEs themselves. I recently had the misfortune of being party to a portfolio committee in which state-owned entity Denel spent the entire meeting blaming National Treasury and the very department that is their stakeholder for alleged non-compliance with the PFMA. It is not a healthy state of affairs when an SOE blames or attempts to pass the buck for its inactions on the fact that they should have been sanctioned by the Department of Public Enterprises but had no communication with the Minister. It is imperative to uncover the full extent to which the Gupta family has influence over state-owned entities. This is with a view only to make sure that the very nature and the very credibility of our state-owned entity is brought back. Parliament is duty-bound to hold government accountable, as well as ensuring that the cabal of ANC cronies with links to President Zuma and the Gupta family do not seize our economy. The DA will not allow the ANC to prosper at the expense of ordinary South Africans. Over 8.9 million South Africans remain jobless. As long as the ANC continues to put itself first, our nation will always come second. The DA will not support this budget vote.
The IFP.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. I'm making this presentation on behalf of Honourable Naren Singh. As indicated during the budget vote debate on public enterprises, Honourable Singh said he believed that there is no need for this department to continue existing. The number of state-owned companies that this ministry has oversight role has reduced considerably. He went on to say that the current state-owned companies, which include Eskom, Denel, SA Express, Safcol, can quite easily be made accountable to the relevant line function departments. The arm's-length approach by the minister and the department in respect of their oversight is often the case because these state-owned enterprises hide behind the Companies Act and independence of their boards. An interaction by our committee with the Denel board chairperson and officials over the VR laser issue is a case in point where state-owned companies literally say to the minister, quote unquote, do not interfere. The department has a budget of 274 million rand, which could be better used for service delivery. Notwithstanding this, our view is that the department does exist and does have a responsibility to oversee some SOCs, and this must continue. We would accordingly support the current budget in the hope that sooner rather than later, there will be no need for the department. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Groenewald.
Agbare voorsitter, die Transnet Hof uitspraak vandag is weer eens 'n bewys dat die agbare minister dit nie erns het met die belastingbetalers se geld in Suid-Afrika nie. Agbare minister, ons praat van miljarde rande wat hier betrokke is. En ek wil vandag vir u sê dat u behoort so gou as moontlik te skik in hierdie pensioensaak om die belastingbetalers se geld verder te mors. SA Express het so 'n paar weke gelede was sy lisensie net eenvoudig opgeskort. Ek hoop die agbare minister het gesien toe 'n breinvrou op die lughawe in trane was omdat sy nie kon vlieg nie, want haar ma het daardie dag 80 jaar oud geword. Dis 'n eenmaal gebeurtenis. Dit as gevolg van SA Express wat sy veiligheidsrekord nie op datum is nie. Daarna is gesê nee, dit was maar net dokumentasie. Wat was dit? Sommer net vir dokumentasie? Dan moet daar sekerlik 'n paar amptenare ontslaan word. Want as dit die ongerief is en die kostes wat dit teweegbring as gevolg van swak administrasie, is dit totaal onaanvaarbaar. Agbare minister, ek het u pertinente vrae in die debat gevra. Oor Denel Eisje, Denel wat internasionale wapenskoue deelneem en mense eintlik bedrieg. U het my nie geantwoord nie. Al wat u vir my kon gesê het, is ek is disrespekvol teenoor u. Nou wil ek vandag vir u sê, en u moet mooi luister. U is gewoond. Amptenare doen aan u verantwoording en as u sê spring, dan sê hulle hoe hoog. In hierdie huis doen u verantwoording hier aan die belastingbetalers van Suid-Afrika. En u moet nou nie 'n ou Chang Bali minister word as u nie die vraag kan beantwoord nie, because that's what you became, a crybaby minister.
Honourable member, your time is expired. NFP.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. The National Freedom Party supports this budget vote. Let me start off by talking about one of our successes, and I think ESCOM has turned, because not very long ago we used to hear moans and groans and cries from people with ESCOM, with load shedding. But suddenly I don't hear people say there's no load shedding. What a privilege, what a pride. Yeah, it's come right. Nobody wants to talk about it. So nobody talks about successes. We only talk about negative issues.
Order, honourable members.
But in saying that, I also think what we should encourage in this House, Honourable Chairperson, is that every member in this House, understanding that South African Airways is part of government entity, should all travel South African Airways. Why don't we all travel South African Airways if you want it to be profitable? That is what they must do. And I think government must put a policy in place, and I'm glad the Deputy President is here, where we must insist that members of this House must use South African Airways. Why are we enriching the West? Why are we enriching the imperialists when we have our own? Honourable Chairperson, I want to emphasize that yes, as the National Freedom Party, South African Airways,
continue, honourable members.
South African Airways should not and must not ever be sold. What must happen with South African Airways is we must just get our management correctly and make it a profitable organization once again. South African Airways is the pride of South Africa. So not for the interest of others must we get rid of South African Airways. But I want to emphasize there we must ensure, and I think as soon as possible, make sure that all my colleagues here travel South African Airways. Love to see them on the South African, on the economy class. Thank you very much. The National Freedom Party supports this budget.
Order, honourable members. The ANC.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson.
Order, honourable members.
Geachte meneer Groenewald, dit was net documentatie en dit was net al documentatie, dus niks anders niet. ANC supports vote number 9 because Elisebe libeka amaqanda. The turnaround of the 6 state-owned companies, Eskom, Transnet, SAX, Denel, Safcol, and Alexco, under Minister Brown, is bearing fruits. We can mention numerous successes, but the biggest success to date is the one that Honorable Shaik has spoke about. Last year, I stood here and I said, I again say, load shedding was not a crisis. I say it again. Now that there is no load shedding, there is no one who says anything. Their mouths are closed as if there is glue pasted on their lips. Eskom were the last date Eskom had load shedding was in August 2015, and nothing up to now. Why? Why?
Order, honourable members.
You should ask you, why were you crying in the first place? Thanks to the leadership of Brian Molifi and Dr. Ben Gubane, I just want to say, Honourable Chairperson, we are aware of the other SOCs that have small problems, and we are working on that. On the Denel issue, Denel is always associated with Guptas. But the people who associate Denel with Guptas, they never mention the white other companies that have shares within Denel because it belongs to them.
Honourable
That's why
Honourable member, your time is expired. Honourable member, your time is expired.
We support this budget.
Order, honourable members. Honourable members, I put the vote again. Are there any objections? There's objections. I put the question. Those in favor will say aye. And those against will say no. I think the ayes have it.
Chairperson, the DA calls for division.
A division having been called for, the bells will be rung for 1 minute. Order, honourable members. Honourable members, I would like to remind you that you may only vote from your allocated seat. And when requested to do so, you must simply indicate your vote by pressing the appropriate button below the yes, no, or abstain signs. If a member inadvertently presses the wrong button, the member may thereafter press the correct button. The last button pressed will be recorded as the member's vote when the voting session is closed. The question before the House is that vote number 9, public enterprises, be agreed to. Are all members in their allocated seats? Voting will now commence. Those in favor of the vote being agreed to should press the yes button. Those against should press the no button. And those wishing to abstain should press the abstain button. Have all members voted? The voting session is now closed. Honourable members, the outcome of the division is as follows. Those in favour 204, those against 65, there's no abstentions, and the vote is accordingly agreed to. I now put vote number 10, public service and administration. Are there any objections? Declarations of vote has been requested. I now recognise the Democratic Alliance.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Public Service has its own Chapter 10 constitutional oversight body, the Public Service Commission. The Supreme Court of Appeal and the Constitutional Court recently found that the recommendations of the Public Protector cannot be ignored. If that is the case, neither can the recommendations of the Public Service Commission. A very uncomfortable position for many less than ethical public servants. The Public Service Commission runs the government's anti-corruption hotline. It also leads the National Anti-Corruption Forum. In addition, it investigates for corruption and unethical practices in the public service, and it generates an annual fact sheet on financial misconduct. The Public Service Commission fights to ensure that taxpayers' money does not end up in the coffers of criminals and ends up servicing the poor people, the 8.9 million unemployed South Africans. The Commission is still independent. It still manages to do its investigations and report its very inconvenient findings without fear or favour. So just when we have a Concord judgment that should have the effect of sharpening the teeth of the Public Service Commission, it has its wings clipped. The budget for the Public Service Commission's investigative and development work, specifically on leadership, has been reduced. Even more troubling is the reduction in the budget for anti-corruption activities. We cannot support a budget that so plainly does not support the crucial fight against corruption.
Are there any further declarations? ANC?
Thank you, Honourable Chair. The ANC supports this budget vote. The DPSA, with its entities, played a crucial role in building a state that is capable of realizing its developmental and transformative role. The NDP highlighted key areas that the department must focus on in the building of the DPSA as a career of choice for all the 1.5 million public servants that are recruited into the administration machinery. Given our historical background as a country, one would have never thought for a moment that the DPSA would be what it is today. This should be a feather in the cap of the ANC. It is indeed a feather in the cap of the ANC, although the architects of this system, of the homeland system that was supposed to have been amalgamated, want us to forget where we come from, which is not going to happen. It is without doubt that the the Portfolio Committee noted the progress made in implementing and coordinating interventions aimed at achieving an efficient, effective, and developmental-oriented public service. Honourable Chair, I think one should have an advice for the DA, that I think it is time that members of the DA particularly join the yoga, because they always complain. That's the best thing that the DA can do. It's to complain. So it's about time they join the yoga so that they think positively rather than allowing their minds to wander into million directions, tapering into one thing, negativity. So I think it's about time. Hi. Yeah.
Honourable member, your time has expired. Order, honourable members. I put the vote again. Are there any objections? There's an objection. I put the question. Those in favour will say aye. Those against will say no. I think the ayes have it.
Chair, please note the objection of the DA. Thank you.
The objection will be noted. Are there any further objections? None. The vote is thus agreed to. I now put vote number 11, Public Works. Are there any objections? There's objections and there's request for declaration. The DA. Order, honourable members.
Under the current government and because
Order,
of the
honourable
current
members.
And because of the current government, we have 8.9 million people who do not have jobs, who live without dignity, without independence, and without freedom in South Africa today. And it is obvious that the ANC has no intention of implementing the structural reforms necessary to boost economic growth and create jobs. But there are work opportunities provided through the expanded Public Works program, which can make a difference to the lives of the unemployed. In the ANC-controlled parts of the country, fighting corruption in the EPWP should be a priority for the minister. I have proved to him that what was referred to as a rumour is in fact the truth. Those who can't produce an ANC membership card are turned away, and this happens nationwide. Is the purpose of the EPWP to provide job opportunities to those in need, or is it to allow ANC councillors to offer unfettered and unmonitored largesse to unknown thousands? These job opportunities should be available for all, not just ANC cadres. The DA government in Cape Town has created tens of thousands of work opportunities, winning praise and acclaim even from the current national government. We have made great progress in rooting out corruption and nepotism in the allocation of EPWP work opportunities, using a fair database system, a system through which the private sector will also be able to recruit job seekers, providing further opportunities for training and future employment. The Auditor General has questioned the department's EPWP data because it seems the same group of ANC cadres are given these jobs day after day, year after year in ANC-controlled areas. Now, we can ensure a fair system and use the EPWP to give dignity and opportunity to those without jobs by the amendment of adding 1.2 billion rand to provide approximately 180,000 more work opportunities in 2016-17.
Honourable
But
member,
as you
your time has
won't, we
expired.
won't.
The UDM.
Thank you, Chair. The UDM does support this budget, but there are red lights flickering. The budget on monitoring has been reduced, and this is likely to compromise the effectiveness of such an important division of the department. Mtara High Court still needs attention, I must reiterate. The recent events around the country, and in particular Vuwani, point us in one direction, and that is the urgent and absolute need for the department to begin to think seriously on two aspects. One, alternative building materials, which will be more fire resistant. I know it's not something that can be implemented this very year, but begin to think in that direction. Secondly, the appointment permanently of social work, of social facilitators, I nearly said social workers, social facilitators, who would be in the immediate precincts of all government structures. That would help for people to have a sense of ownership of government precincts. Transformation report of the CIDB points in one direction, that is there's very little transformation taking place in the space of public works. This needs urgent attention. Lastly, you need to have closer working relationship with the municipalities, especially in the sphere of the bad use of the expanded public works program budget by municipalities. It needs closer attention. Otherwise, you're not going to have positive results come end of this financial year. I thank you.
The ANC.
Honorable Chairperson, the ANC supports vote 11. The Department of Public Works' turnaround strategy of stabilization, efficiency enhancement, and sustainable growth continues to yield positive results. The department maintained its unqualified audit opinion in the 2014-15 financial year. The department continues to execute its mandate to ensure, one, decent employment through inclusive economic growth, two, the provision of strategic leadership and the regulation of the construction and property sectors to promote economic empowerment and skills development. Three, good corporate governance to support effective and efficient service delivery. Four, an efficient, competitive, and responsive accommodation infrastructure network. And five, to contribute towards comprehensive rural development. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I put the vote again. Are there any objections? There's objections. I put the question. Those in favour will say aye. And those against will say no. I think the ayes have it.
Chairperson, the DA calls for division. Thank you.
A division having been called for, the bells will be rung for 1 minute. Order. Will honourable members take up their seats, please? I would like to remind members that they may only vote from the allocated seats. The question before the House is that vote number 11, Public Works, be agreed to. Are all members in the allocated seats? Voting will now commence. Those in favor of the vote being agreed to should press the yes button. Those against should press the no button. And those wishing to abstain should press the abstain button. Have all members voted? The voting session is now closed. Honourable members, the outcome of the revision is as follows. Those in favour, 196. Those against, 58. There's no abstentions, and the vote is accordingly agreed to. I now put vote number 12, Statistics South Africa. Are there any objections? There's no objections, but there's a request for a declaration. The DA.
Thank you, Chairperson. Some good news on my right-hand side. The Democratic Alliance support budget vote 12 Stats SA. Statistics South Africa plays a central role in the implementation of the National Development Plan by the government. So the proper functioning of Stats SA is of the crucial importance for South Africa's future. Transforming the economy and creating sustainable expansion for job creation means that the rate of economic growth needs to succeed 5% a year on average. It is clear our growth is stuck at less than 2%. The biggest challenge our country faces is not better statistical reporting, but government's lack of will to actually implement the NDP. Stats SA can deliver the method and indicators to inform that progress are inadequate. The NDP must implement to address economic infrastructure, to boost economic growth, and to address unemployment. 8.9 million people are unemployed. There must be greater synergy between the NDP, Stats SA, strategic plans, and the allocation of the budgets to departments for South Africa to move forward. Thank you.
Are there any further declarations? The ANC.
Honorable House Chair, ANC usukumela ukubonga kwi-DA ukuthi khona nokho into abayivumayo. Ukuthi cha i-vote number 12 mayibe khona ngoba indeed ayikho i-government engaphatha ngaphandle kwe-empirical evidence which is the data. So singukhongolose sithi siyabonga bandla kusho ukuthi sekhona uguquko ngoba besidinga nina siyabonga.
Thank you, honourable members. I put the vote again. Are there any objections? No objections, agreed to. I now put vote number 13, women. Are there any declarations? There's objections and a declaration. The DA.
While the Democratic Alliance supports the mandate of the Department of Women in the Presidency in securing women's rights, gender equality, and the development of women's socio-economic opportunities, we cannot support a budget that will not allocate resources effectively. 69.9 million is transferred to the Commission for Gender Equality, leaving the department with a small operating budget of 127 million. Unfortunately and misguidedly, 70% of this operating budget and 71% of personnel are allocated to administration instead of focusing on improving the plight of women at grassroots level. As a result, the core mandates of programs 2 and 3 are neglected. The gender mainstreaming framework and gender-responsive budget have still not been completed. So how can the progress of other departments be evaluated? This department is failing the women of South Africa. Given the dire state of the economy, the high rate of unemployment, and the devastating increase in food prices, the DA feels that the budget allocated to the Department of Women could be used more effectively to increase social grants, which provide a lifeline to over 17 million citizens. The ANC voted against the constructive budget budget amendments by the DA that would improve the lives of people who are struggling to survive. Vulnerable South Africans deserve a better deal than the ANC is prepared to give them. The budget of the Department of Women can be utilised to better effect, to increase social grants and help the poor. We reject budget vote 13.
Are there any further declarations?
Yes, ANC.
I'm just waiting for the members of the NFP. May I request members who want to make declarations to move to the waiting benches, please? It saves time. Please continue.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. The National Freedom Party supports this budget. Emancipation of women is very, very important. Protecting our women is very important. So supporting this budget is very important. So I don't understand what my colleague is complaining about. Be that as it may, the National Freedom Party calls the department to take responsibility and ensure that they accelerate the emancipation of women in South Africa. Honourable Chairperson, 1 out of every 4 women in South Africa is in an abusive relationship. Every 6 days, a woman in South Africa is murdered by an intimate partner. Every 25 seconds, a woman or girl is raped in South Africa. Honourable Chairperson, nothing has happened for 300 years. Somebody says nothing is happening right now. It is the socio-economic conditions under which our people live. After having been oppressed for 300 years, this is the society we live in. So a lot has to be done, and we must appreciate only so much can be done in 22 years. Honourable Chairperson, what we find is the issue of maintenance seems to be a serious problem, especially in those that are self-employed and you're not able to trace that income. And we find that our girls and ladies have to go repeatedly to these courts. There are long queues and spend a hell of a lot of time there. Often men, for not wanting to pay maintenance, end up saying it's not my child, it's unaffordable for them to do tests. And I'm sure the Minister of Health is here, he's sitting and he's listening, and he's going to do something about it. The National Freedom Party will support this, but calls on the department to do a lot more to protect our women and the rights of our women. Thank you very much.
Okay, the ANC, Honourable Bengu will make the declaration from a seat.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Portfolio Committee on Women in the Presidency, having considered the APP and budgets of the department responsible for women for 2016-17, as well as the Commission on Gender Equality's annual performance plan, respectively, according to the department's policy priorities for 2016-17, the department has indicated that its focus over the medium term will be directed on 3 core areas, which is analyzing and monitor policy and providing knowledge, mainstreaming women's socio-economic empowerment, awareness raising and outreach program, as the department will host a number of awareness initiatives through the country on a quarterly, annual and once-off basis, such as 365 days of violence against women. The department has only received a budgetary allocation of 196 million for 26-17 financial year. Of this, 69 goes to the CGE, with the department left with the operating budget of 127 million. Although there is a 6 million more that is more than in the previous financial year, but this department needs more money so as to employ more personnel, so as to make sure that it's monitor all the budgets and programs in all the departments to ensure that the lives of women are improved through services rendered by this ANC-led government, and to monitor at provincial, district, and local municipalities that women issues are taken serious. So what the DA, or Honourable Robinson, is saying is grandstanding that as we all members of the committee, we have agreed that the department needs more funding to fulfill its mandate and meet its target. So the ANC supports the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Members, I now put the vote. Are there any objections? No objections. Yes. There's an objection. I now put the question. Those in favour will say aye, and those against will say no. I think the ayes have it.
Chairperson, please note the objection of the DA. Thank you.
Objection will be noted and the vote is thus agreed to. I now put vote number 14, basic education. Are there any objections? Declaration of vote has been requested. I now recognize the DA.
House Chair, the huge unemployment rate amongst the youth, the decline in the 2050 matric results and the collapse of education in Limpopo, Eastern Cape and KZN is proof that we are going backwards. The jobs for cash reports indicates that 6 out of 9 provincial departments have been captured by SAT2, and if the Minister doesn't limit the power of SAT2 immediately, the government will continue failing to deliver on education. We note that in 2017-18, the school infrastructure grant will shift to the education grant and funds will be transferred to provinces. We will continue to plead that such funds be conditional and that the spending thereof be closely monitored due to a very poor delivery history on projects. The growing inequality between our quintile 1 and 5 schools must be addressed with urgency. And we have our misgivings about Operation Pakisa, as we do not know where the money is going to come from for all the ICT projects. We saw new schools built and completed through our city, 171, now down to 136, sanitation down from 410 to, and also water provision down. We see no growth in Programme 3, which works and deals with improvement of the quality of teaching and learning to enhance accountability. We have some concerns about the increased expenditure for consultants, legal fees, travel and subsistence, and there's no adequate plan nor allocation for disasters we've just experienced in Wuwani, Limpopo. The business as usual approach is not going to solve our country's education crisis, and we cannot support this budget.
The UDM.
I come here for one message to the Minister of Basic Education. Your cooperation is critically important in the development of sport in this country. So far, the reports we're getting in another vote are that your department is not coming to the party. We've gone past the stage of asking why. We insist that you need to reshape your programs such that your department comes to the party. Sport is suffering because your department is just not coming to the party. However, UDM would still support.
The NFP.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. The National Freedom Party supports this budget vote. Honourable Chairperson, we just have a few challenges, and I'm glad the Minister is here. Minister, one of the things that we found is that the quintile system seems to be marginalizing certain learners, because you may be in a privileged area, but you may still come from an underprivileged background. And I'll give you an example of Wentworth or Oosterwil in Durban, which is a very underprivileged area, and you find that there are learners there that are coming from the townships. But because the school does not qualify, those kids are deprived. So I think that is one of the things we need to look at. The issue, I think, also of the nutrition tenders, which seems to have been a challenge. But we welcome your announcement that one school will be delivered every week. We also call on a coordinated effort between the Department of Health, the Department of Education, including the Department of Sports, so that we can develop these learners into full-grown youth that will someday become an asset to this country. And in saying that, the National Freedom Party will support this.
The ANC.
Sihlalo, African National Congress siyalisupporta uhlahlozimali olubekiwe phambi kwendlu. Silisupporta ngezizathu ezilandelayo sihlalo. Emlandweni wethu siqala siyabona ezemfundo, iDepartment yezemfundo izama ukuvala igebe phakathi kwabahluphekayo nabadla izambane likaMpondo. Okokuqala la sibona izikole zethu zakhiwa ziba seqophelweni ezakhiwa ngalo ukuthi laba abaphikisayo bengeke bakuthande ngoba angeke bakuthokozele ukuthi bafice la bekhona. Sibona izikole zethu kulolu hlahlo imali sazi ukuthi lezo izikole inhlwempuzi yadla izingane zethu ukuze ihlale zisesikoleni. Siyabona sihlalo imphumela yezemfundo inyuka ngendlela ongakazoyibone. Siyabezwa abantu abathanda ukuphikisa njalo bezobuka kwi-percentage kodwa mubuka inombolo neqophelo lemphumela esiyikhiphayo njengamanje siyiningizimu Afrika iyabonisa ukuthi lolu hlahlo imali lisafuna ukuthi liyithathe izwe lethu liye phambili ukuze siqhubeke sikwazi ukushintsha impilo zabantu, siqhubeke sikwazi ukufinyelela la kunezidingo khona ikakhulukazi kulabo abantu abahlala endaweni zasemaplazini nalabo abantu ekade besalele emuva iminyaka eminingi. Lolu hlahlo zimali ke esize ngalo namhlanje yilolo esithi ngempela lizokwazi ukusithatha siye phambili njengezwe, yilele sithi liyakwazi ukuhambisana nomqulu wenqubekela phambili wentuthuko iNDP yase South Africa. Siyabona ukuthi eminyakeni ngo-2030 ngempela siyizwe uma ngase silandele lo hlahlo zimali silandele lezi inhlelo idepartment ezanalo izwe lethu sobe selibeke phambili ngaleyo ndlela sikwazi ukushintsha impilo zabantu zibe ngcono ngokwezemfundo ngoba siyazi ukuthi izwe elingafundile izwe elingakwazi ukunakekela into yalo ayisoze laqhubekela phambili. Sithi nje siyakusupporta kakhulu lo hlahlo zimali esihlangene ngalo namhlanje. Ngiyabonga Sihlalo.
Honourable members, I put the vote again. Are there any objections? I now put the question. Those in favour will say aye, and those against will say no. I think the ayes have it.
Chairperson, the DA calls for a division. Thank you.
A division having been called for, the bells will be rung for 1 minute. Order, honourable members. I would like to remind members that they may only vote from the allocated seat. The question before the House is that vote number 14, basic education, be agreed to. Are all members in the allocated seats? Voting will now commence. Those in favour of the vote being agreed to should press the yes button. Those against should press the no button. And those wishing to abstain should press the abstain button. Have all members voted? The session is now closed. Honourable members, the result of the division is as follows. Those in favour 203, those against 58, there's no abstentions, and the vote is accordingly agreed to. I now put vote number 15, higher education and training. Are there any objections? Declarations of vote has been requested. I now recognize the Democratic Alliance.
The ANC wants us to become a developmental state, like the Asian tigers. But the development state idea is not going that well because of the many failures of government that we see all around us. One of these failures is in the field of higher education. Today, the leading example of a developmental state is China. But China spends 3% of its GDP on higher education. This has enabled China to move from a position where no universities existed at all after the Cultural Revolution to one where today its top universities compete on an equal basis with the best in the world. Our higher education budget, by contrast, fails miserably. The public knows that we spend a lot on basic education, But as far as higher education is concerned, we spend a mere 0.76% of GDP on universities and 1.55% of GDP on all higher education institutions and student loans. We are nowhere near the proportion required by a developing country, let alone a developmental state. Of that budget, a stagnating proportion is allocated to universities, while far too little is provided for student loans and bursaries. Is it any wonder that our universities are burning? We have tried to be constructive, and we've proposed amendments to the main budget to put an additional $2 billion into student funding, as well as an additional $730 million into university subsidies. These amendments have been rejected by the ANC in committee. We are appalled that the ANC government would rather let our universities burn and our students go hungry than give them the extra resources that we proposed. This country will never develop without the high-level person power produced in higher education institutions. The DA unequivocally rejects this budget. Thank you.
The NFP.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. By rejecting the budget, I would imagine that no students will go to university next year, and so nobody will go forward. So I don't understand the logic behind it. But anyway, Honourable Chairperson, one of the concerns we have with regards to the NSFAS funding is this, that I think the issue of collecting the loans that have been given out needs to be managed a lot better. The other challenge that I think we want to express on is that the issue of the curriculum. We find that a lot of the curriculum in these tertiary institutions are not based on the skills needs of the country. And I think just yesterday we heard the President talk about 19 million or so in the health sector, jobs that were nurses and medical professionals that we will need by 2030. And I think we need to encourage the tertiary institutions to take in learners based on the curriculum needs of our country so that we can address the skills shortage and also export that skills so that we can reduce the high unemployment rate that we seem to be having. And in line with that, the National Freedom Party believes that this budget must be supported because it's in the interest of every learner that's going out to tertiary institution. So we support this. Thank you, Chair.
The ANC.
Thank you, Chair. The ANC support this budget vote. First of all, right from the beginning, it must be clear that the ANC stand for a philosophy of a socio-economic approach. In other words, we stand for nothing else but poverty that has been caused by two people, the DA and the National Party. Because we want to say that if poverty is as high as it is, as a result of our past caused by DA and National Party, there'll never be peace in South Africa. Poverty is the cause, not the ANC, of all of we're going to support this budget, unlike the DA that opposes the budget. So all the bendings that is taking place at universities, all the social maladjustment like juvenile delinquency, crime that is taking place in this country is caused by poverty as a result of inferior education and the oppression of apartheid that we come from. To address that 9%, there's 9% increase. There is 9% increase on the budget, coming to a total, bringing the budget to a total of 67,000 billion rands. And that is going to be used for poor students in NSFAS, like last year for NSFAS and poor students we allocated 7 billion out of 9 billion. The ANC support this budget because we're mopping up the mess that was created
Member, your
by the
time is now
people on my
expired.
right. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Order, honourable members. I put the vote again. Are there any objections? I now put the question. Those in favour will say aye. Those against will say no. I think the ayes have it.
Chairperson, the DA calls for division. Thank you.
Division having been called for, the bells will be rung for 1 minute. Order, honourable members. The question before the House is that vote number 15, higher education and training, be agreed to. Are all members in the allocated seats? Voting will now commence. Those in favour of the vote being agreed to should press the yes button. Those against should press the no button. And those wishing to abstain should press the abstain button. Have all members voted? The voting session is now closed. Honourable members, the outcome of the division is as follows. Those in favour 205. Those against 60, there's no abstentions, and the vote is accordingly agreed to. I now put vote number 16 health. Are there any objections? There's a request for a declaration. I now recognize the Democratic Alliance.
House Chair, the Department of Health's budget is a reasonable response to our disease burden and our national priorities. 1 billion more set aside for the expansion of the antiretroviral program, 740 million added to us to strengthen our TB programs, 4.5 billion for revitalizing our facilities, and more funds set aside for new substance abuse treatment centers in the Northern Cape, Free State, Western Cape, and Northwest. It is a rational thing to support the budget, and we do. But the minister must take bold steps. 2 weeks ago, I visited Mangaung's hospitals and found that none of them had hot water. It has been like that for 3 years. In both KZN and Free State, life support medical equipment have not been serviced for the last 2 years. Clinics and hospitals are desperately understaffed. Medical waste systems are dysfunctional in the Free State, in Gauteng, Limpopo, and the Northwest. I petitioned the AG to investigate. AG Makwetla decided to include medical waste governance in provincial audits. Today I wrote to the Office of Health Standards Compliance to do a performance audit at the very moment when medical waste washed up overnight on the beaches of Durban. It does not help, Minister, to call our overworked nurses white devils. The health professionals are your strength. Your weakness is the inability of ANC MECs to spend health budget honestly and to spend them diligently. The DA supports this budget, but it is time that the minister summon the courage to call the ANC MECs to order. I thank you.
The NFP.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Let me start off by commending the Minister of Health for a job well done. You know, Minister, one must have utmost respect for you when you say that I can go out there and put dialysis machine throughout the country, but my people will still die. I don't want them to die. I want to know why are they dying. And your principle of prevention rather than cure, that must be welcomed, Honourable Minister. Your intervention, Minister, with regards to the rollout of ARVs to now almost 4 million people in the country, which has also reduced the new infection rate, clearly indicates that your department is moving in the right direction. Your further intervention with regards to TB, the HIV, and now the stance with respect to diabetes, which you're not only taking in this particular country, but in the SADC region and in Africa. Again, it must be welcomed. Yourself, together with Global TB, the work that you seem to be doing there, again, must be welcomed. And I think you must be congratulated on your commitment and dedication in trying to create a healthy life for our people. The introduction of the sugar tax, Honourable Minister, I want to reiterate, we must ensure that a lot of that money goes towards spending it to prevent diabetes and awareness on the challenges that our country face in terms of diabetes. We don't want that money to be now lost in the fiscus for every other thing other than diabetes. The National Freedom Party supports this. Thank you.
The ANC.
Honourable House Chair, we stand here as African National Congress. We support Vote 16. We're supporting Vote 16 precisely because the Department of Health, led by the Minister, has managed that in the last financial year, we had 2,000 ward-based outreach teams. We are saying this kuba siyazi ukuba xa sime apha izibhedlele neekliniki zivuselelwe inkangeleko yazo abathi abakhumshayo yi-revitalization. Namhlanje kukho abantu abama apha abathi oko i-ANC ithe yaphatha kuyi-mess ngesilungu, kanti i-Department of Health ilungisa kanye loo mess kuba kaloku abanye abantu babesongiwa, babeqeqeshwa ngokwebala labo. Siyabacela kabantu into yokuba mabayazi into kokokuba i-Department of Health in the Eastern Cape nase-Free State naKwaZulu Natal yakhe iikliniki eziyi-24 nento ekuthiwa yi-community health clinic. Yakhe i-institutions zokuqiniseka into yoba amanesi aqeqeshwa ngokufanelekileyo. In 167 health facilities which are currently undergoing revitalization. These are earmarked to be completed in 2017. If you go to Toranginza, we have got what is called the state-of-the-art pediatric mini-samtoilet. We have got what is called the state-of-the-art psychiatric hospital at Toranginza. Kodwa siqinisekile siyabacela abantu bakuthi into yoba bangayilahli imbo yabo ngophoyiyane kuba kaloku xa sizama ukulungisa i-Department of Health ilungisa ezinto ngemali encinci engekhoyo. Siyakucela Minister Braville uba sicela ukuthi kratya kuba kaloku le imali incinci engekhoyo senza okukhulu ngayo kuba siqinisekise into yokuba siyabutshintsha ubomi babantu bakuthi.
Honourable Member, your time is now expired.
ANC support Vote 16.
I put the vote again. Are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to. I now put vote number 17, social development. Are there any objections? There are objections and there's been a request for declarations. The DA.
Honourable House Chair, this week the ANC had the opportunity to increase social grants by 2.2 billion rand as proposed by the Democratic Alliance, but the ANC said no. Social grants are a lifeline to over 17 million South Africans. Recent reports reveal that close to 9 million South Africans are without jobs, which renders them dependent on family members who receive grants. These vulnerable people are clearly not a priority to the ANC government. The budget speech by the Minister of Finance earlier this year, when the 6.4% increase in grants was announced, falls short of the just released CPI figures on food price inflation, which sit at 11%. Since then, the Democratic Alliance has called for the increase in social grants to meet the ever-increasing food prices that were exacerbated by, among others, the current crippling drought and our country's ailing economy. My colleagues in the Finance Portfolio Committee have gone further and proposed amendments to the appropriation bill because the DA believes that the reprioritization of the lives of vulnerable South Africans is crucial. This too has fallen on deaf ears. South Africans can see for themselves that to the ANC government, mostly black vulnerable lives do not matter. We reiterate our call to the government to prioritize the millions of South Africans' lives by increasing social grants. The ANC has failed the poor, and as such, the DA will not be party to a budget which has not gone far enough to address the needs of the poor South Africans. Thank you.
The IFP.
House Chair, may I address you, please?
Yes, Honourable Member.
I'd like to address you in terms of Rule 63 of the rules. Every time a Democratic Alliance Member of Parliament gets up to speak, the Honourable Member underneath the pillar there is shouting the word sellout. This is deeply offensive, and I don't think if we want to start trading personal insults in the House, then we can go that route, but I don't think it's appropriate. And I'd ask a ruling from you whether the word sellout is an appropriate in the parliamentary context.
Your point is noted. Honourable members, order. Let us refrain from referring to each other in a dishonourable manner. While interjections...
But yesterday you called the President
Honourable Minister, I did not recognize you.
Oh.
Honourable Minister.
You are sellout too.
Honourable Minister. Order, honourable members. Order. No.
Point of order.
Honourable Gadebe, sit down. Honourable Minister, you should be asked to be recognized. You shouldn't just switch on the mic and address the House. Yes, Honourable Member.
Honourable House Chair, when I said it yesterday, the President owned it from the podium. But the Honourable Member is only unparliamentary in what he's just said by calling me a sellout. I think he must withdraw as well.
Honourable members.
Otherwise, I can start talking about his Twitter account.
No, honourable members. No. Order. Order, honourable members. Honourable members, over the last period of time, there has been a number of words that has been used in Parliament that should not be used in Parliament by referring to honourable members. Yesterday was once again such a case. As the presiding officers, we're looking at what was being said and updating the list of unparliamentary words. And we will return to the House and engage the chief whips of all political parties to remind ourselves on which words is unparliamentary. Let us not make use of words that can be deemed offensive or gestures even. And other things that I've observed here from where I'm sitting this afternoon. There's quite a few things that can be interpreted very, very negatively. So let us just refrain from doing so. Let's maintain the decorum of the House, and we will come back, Honourable Steenhuisen, once we have done that. Honourable members, I think we must now order. Let us now give the member at the podium opportunity to continue with her declaration.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chairperson. Despite the Minister of Social Development trying to put a positive spin on matters that her department is seized with during her budget vote debate, the facts speak for themselves. As our economy grinds to a halt, we are faced with a severe social crisis. Government is losing the war against gender-based violence, and we are losing the war against substance abuse. Then, each month, millions of schoolgirls are missing a week of school each month simply because they do not have access to sanitary products. The IFP continues to call on this department and government at large to ensure that free sanitary pads for all those who need them become a reality. We have also called for VAT to be removed from these items. If we can provide free condoms, Honourable Minister of Health, we can also provide free sanitary products. Despite all this, the Minister of Social Development offered no answers to the issues we raised. Notably, she also had nothing to say about the illegal and immoral deductions from SASSA grant recipients. Instead, we were chided by ANC MPs saying that the matter is still sub judice. But then only a few days later, the Minister briefed the media about the steps that she's taken to resolve the matter, not Parliament. I also remain concerned that the Minister's role as the President of the ANC Women's League is severely compromising her role as the Minister of Social Development. The incident in Port Elizabeth cannot be swept under the carpet. How can the very minister who is supposed to protect the most vulnerable people in our society threaten people with violence? Finally, despite constant denials by many leaders, the Public Protector has confirmed that distributing food parcels at party events is an abuse of state resources and contravenes our Constitution. It is now up to Social Development and SASSA to arrest this practice as we approach the municipal elections. These are issues of grave concern. However, this budget looks after the most vulnerable in our society. The IFP will therefore support this budget, but not the way in which it's administrated. I thank you.
The NFP.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. The National Freedom Party supports this budget. Honourable Chairperson, this is the department that is designated to work with victims of rape and abuse, to facilitate foster care and HIV/AIDS outreach programs, and as such must rely heavily on interdepartmental cooperation. It is also the department which is responsible for counselling traumatized victims of abuse, drug addiction and crime, and the department that must facilitate care for the aged and the destitute. Honourable Chairperson, unless we as a country and as a government address the imbalances that our people have suffered from the past oppression over 300, it is going to be very, very difficult to address these challenges that our people are facing, Honourable Chairperson. Honourable Chairperson, the conditions under which our people live, the kind of housing units that were built prior 1994, there's blocks of flats with no recreational facilities, drug abuse, high unemployment rate, all clustered together. This is some of the reasons why our people are living under the conditions they are. And that is why it's, the challenges of abuse of drugs and alcohol and teenage pregnancy and HIV and AIDS is continuing, accelerating. So we need to look at this collectively, Honourable Chairperson, to be able to address this. And I know it's not easy in 22 years. And I think we are getting there. There's a lot of work being done. But however, there are still very serious challenges. And I want to urge the department to look at this holistically, the different challenges our people face in those areas, to try and change that. And especially improve the kind of houses I think we build for them in those environments. Ensure there are proper recreational facilities, not clustered.
Honourable Member, your time has expired.
The National Freedom Party, in conclusion, will support this budget. Thank you.
The ANC.
Sihlalo wosihlalo indlu iphela diphakamela ukutsho ukuba iANC kunye nekomiti ziyayixhasa oluhlahlo lwabiwo mali. Kufanelekile ke ukuba iqela leDA kwezopolitiko lingabi nawo umdla wokuba le mali mayifumaneke, kuba kaloku ingase yenze kunciphe nabafazi abasebenza ezifama zawo. Yiyo ke loo nto ingathi xa bethe banemali abayinikwayo noko ukuya efama beyosebenza bebeleka abantwana kuyancipha. Ngxe ngokuba sibanika imali sawuhlala sibanika ubomi babo bube ngcono, nivuma ningavumi. Umama uMasango ohloniphekileyo walendlu undidanise kakhulu
kuba okoko sihamba kunye kwade kwangumzuzu wokugqibela engaphakamisanga lichasayo. Noko ke ndiyabona mhlawumbi ikho into engamhlela xa enokuthi athethe inyani kule ndlu. Le budget yenza oomama bakwazi ukuphucula izakhono kuba umntwana usukile emqolo usesikolweni sabantwana abaselula. Abantwana xa beye kwi-Early Child Development Center bayakwazi ukuhlala ixesha elide esikolweni kuba bayatya ingqondo ikhule sitsho silingane. Singalingani nje kungoba thina sakhula sisela amanzi sidla inkobe bona bedla izambane likapondo. Yiyo le nto ingathi yathuthumba le nto sikule ndlu. Ndiyaphinda ndithi le budget yenza inguqu. Abasebenzi bayayazi loo nto kuba xa besebenza emigodini nakwiindawo ezinzima oonina babo bahoyiwe yile mali. Banikwa bayamkela inyanga nenyanga ngaphezu kwale kota eyayifunyanwa emva kwenyanga ezintathu.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Members, I put the vote again. Are there any objections? There's an objection. I now put the question. Those in favour will say aye. Those against will say no. I think the ayes have it.
Chairperson, please note the objection of the DA. Thank you.
Objection is noted.
Die beswaar van die Vryheidsfront Plus ook, agbare voorsitter.
It's noted. The vote is thus agreed to. Honourable Members, I now put vote number 18, Correctional Services. Are there any objections? There's a request for a declaration. The DA.
House Chair, Correctional Services has an integral role to play in the criminal justice system of our country. The 2005 White Paper on Corrections in South Africa stated boldly, and I quote, "The final fundamental break with the past archaic penal system and ushers in a start to our second decade of freedom where prisons become correctional centers of rehabilitation and offenders are given new hope and encouragement to adopt a lifestyle that will result in a second chance towards becoming the ideal South African citizen." More than a decade later, this ideal has not been realized. To be fair, Chair, it's not solely the result of the budgetary allocation to the department over the years. In fact, overcrowding and corruption within the ranks of the administration of the department has contributed largely to the inefficiency in the department, specifically in respect of programs aimed at rehabilitation. The continued underspending by the department on its capital budget aimed at the increase of the number of bed spaces at our correctional facilities is a blight on the efforts of the many committed officials within the department. Chair, as in the past, our other concern with the budget of the department is that it does not sufficiently resource the programs dealing with community corrections and social reintegration of ex-offenders, therefore preventing the optimal use of measures other than incarceration. While we therefore support this budget, we do so very hesitantly. If underspending and corruption are not curbed substantially in this financial year, we may be forced in future to vote against the budget of the department as a vote of disapproval of the lack of progress in addressing these serious issues. I thank you.
The ACDP.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the ACDP will support this budget vote, notwithstanding certain reservations that we have. Now, the Auditor General has persistently raised concerns about the department's internal audit and control environment and its perennial audit qualifications. And we note that the internal audit sub-program does not have any significant performance indicators through which to measure progress made. An amount of 95.286 million is allocated to this program, and we in the ACDP support the committee's recommendations to improve the internal audit indicators. And we note that President Zuma has issued a proclamation for the Special Investigating Unit to investigate irregularities in the award of a tender for the electronic monitoring system. And we also commend the steps taken by National Treasury's Chief Procurement Officer in earlier instructing Commissioner Modise to cancel an irregular tender worth 378 million rand. Now, the department has been unable to meet its targets for additional bed spaces, and we know the department is the receiver of the criminal justice system. But this has largely been due to long delays in the completion of capital infrastructure projects. Regrettably, discussions between the Minister and the Minister of Public Works have borne little fruit, and the result of that is we see overcrowding and diseases, particularly tuberculosis. But we particularly support the increase in the number of restorative justice programs, and this we see by the increase in the number of victims, parolees, and probationers that are attending these programs. This, together with the rehabilitation budgets, cannot be underfunded, and we really need to see that as it has a direct impact on the reintegration of offenders into society. The ACDP has always supported restorative justice programs, so the ACDP will support this budget vote. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The ANC.
House Chairperson, the African National Congress supports this budget because in the past few years, we have seen improvements in the work of the department. In fact, the department is succeeding in transforming the prisons into correctional centers, properly so-called. We also find that the department is turning these correctional centers into centers of excellence. The ex-offenders that come out of these centers have skills, and the department has a program to plow back these skills into the society, and that enables the department to effectively bring about rehabilitation and social integration in our communities. We know also that the department has been building halfway houses which contribute to this social reintegration. So as the African National Congress, we would call on this parliament to do everything possible to support this department, bearing in mind that the majority of the young people are in the correctional centers, and we do not want to have a situation where recidivism continues. We want these young people to come out as productive citizens so that they can contribute to the creation of a better life for all our people. And we know that some of our people in this parliament, on my left, have been critical of the work of the department because their interest is
Honourable Member,
your
time is now expired.
Tenders. The department does not exist for tenders, but for service. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I put the vote again. Are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to. Honourable members, we will now take a comfort break for 30 minutes. Bells will be rung to alert members to the resumption of business, and business is now suspended.